Okay, so here we go. We'll spend a little bit more time than just the speed run that I went through because of the fan. So I love, honestly, what the Cardinals have done in this offseason because I think they've made a lot of great I think they've made a lot of great signings, honestly, for a team that's very young and building around Kyler Murray, who I really like. So AJ Green's a solid receiver to pick up. Larry Fitzgerald, I believe, is still a free agent. I don't know if he's retired yet or not. I'm sure the Cardinals fan probably can give me a little update on that. But AJ Green, if you can get some production out of him, he's a great wide receiver to have there to help out. Yeah, Robert Alford, you're kind of like, I don't know what's happening there. But getting Rodney Harrison on a trade for a freaking third round selection is not bad at all, considering Rodney Hudson, when he's actually playing well. So not retired yet. So yeah, he's basically waiting to see if he gets another deal, probably from Arizona, I would assume, and he'll probably get a cheap deal. But Rodney Hudson's a great center when he's healthy and playing well, so that's a great signing for them to help bolster that offensive line as well, because they just extended their left tackle a year ago. You get Beachum in there again. It's another good tackle that could play some meaningful minutes, but also gives them a little bit of depth and flexibility for injuries. Marcus Golden's another good re-signing. He was pretty productive for them. Obviously, J.J. Watt's huge for them because if he's healthy and actually, I think if he's utilized, like I said, when J.J. Watt got signed initially and that nose broke and we did our podcast after, I said that basically I think J.J. Watt could be a situational player that plays that third down pass rush as well as, comes in on obvious pass rushing situations to kind of help out. He's a good run stopper, but I don't want him in on more run stopping plays because I'd rather utilize his skills in the pass rush. It's curious to see if that's what they'll do with him. If they do that with him, I think that he'll be utilized to his maximum effectiveness. But nonetheless, it's a great signing for them, especially a defense that was young, up and coming. They got one of my favorite players in the draft that I've ever seen in my life last year, which was Isaiah Simmons. And they kind of didn't even know really where to use Isaiah Simmons last year, simply because he's like a defensive end linebacker safety hybrid. But they kind of used him as like a cover linebacker / like safety on like dime coverages and stuff. And I think when they figure out more situations to use him in, he'll be utilized to his full potential, which he is one of the best. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Isaiah. What did I just say? Isaiah
Simmons.
Isaiah Simmons is it's being handed like a player that like is a no joke Pro Bowl All Pro player. And then just kind of not knowing what to do with him was kind of how that felt last year. But so they have so much upside, so much potential. There's a lot of good things happening, and I'd be curious to see what they do with their draft pick. I'll have to go through my next mock draft and see. They have it's not a very high pick, but I'm pretty sure it's in the teens. See, I feel like I don't want to say Super Bowl bust this year, only because this year feels like
I say divisional round this year.
I say they're looking for making I think your peak this year. I think honestly, as a Cardinals fan, I think you're happy if you end up in the AFC Championship or NFC Championship, right? Because they're in the NFC. I never remember freaking conferences like an idiot. Yeah. But if they end up in the championship, I think that's a great sign, because then I think the next year you make a couple more signings, couple more draft picks, and then you're there. I feel like this year is a great building year for them. I feel like this is it was a great signing period where they didn't spend too much. They didn't, break the bank, but they did get a lot of players that are going to help them take that next step. And then I think the next step after that, we'll see how they do next offseason. And I think that'll tell whether or not they're Super Bowl contenders next year.
Yeah.
So
you also talked about AJ Green, right?
Yeah. I said AJ Green's a good, if he's healthy and productive, he's a good wide receiver to have on the roster because he's very situational. You can use him in the red zone. He's also, when healthy and playing at his best, he's a good safety valve receiver for a quarterback. So that's also helpful. And they kind of don't really have height on that roster Christian Kirk is only 6'1". Isabella is like 5'9".
Kyler Murray's 4'11".
Shut up.
You started out with saying they didn't have height. Where did you think that was going to go?
I was going to the wide receivers, Dylan. I was not trying to poke
yeah,
at the...
right. Of course.
Well, anyways, I think Christian Kirk's like their tallest receiver besides Larry Fitzgerald, who is a free agent at the moment. So we'll see if they bring him back. I think they do on a 1-year deal. But regardless, out of their starting receivers who play very meaningful minutes, they really don't have a lot of height in the red zone. And so I think that is basically where Adrian Green comes into play.
And to be fair, and just make it clear.
Oh, yeah. Laurent Stevens, the running back who was like 5'6" or 5'5". He was actually kind of fun to watch. He was very like not as talented as Tariq Cohen, but he was a very Tariq Cohen-esque player.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing though. Like I always liked watching Russell Wilson play for the longest time because I thought he was really fun to watch. And obviously the comparison's always to Kyler Murray in the same way. Same thing. Super fun to watch. I like watching Cardinals games
a lot because Kyler Murray doesn't run recklessly like I think a Cam Newton did for most of his career.
Oh, yeah.
Or like a Lamar Jackson kind of does. Where like Lamar Jackson, yeah, he's too quick at this point, so he's really not taking those hits. But like Kyler Murray has played, he does remind me a lot of Russell Wilson, and I know that that's a big thing to say. Cam Newton and Lamar Jackson and stuff like that, who don't really slide, who kind of take the hits, and when Lamar Jackson slows down even slightly, he's going to start taking those hits. Whereas I think at least Kyler Murray is trying. I think he develops into the Russell Wilson where you see him running only when it's necessary. And when he does run, he utilizes it to its max and ends up getting down or getting out of bounds, Okay, moving on to the Rams. They get Matthew Stafford. We already talked about how that's an upgrade for them. That makes them a legitimate offensive team and a legitimate team next year for potentially a championship as well as maybe even Super Bowl contention. We'll see. I mean, they do have to compete with the Bucs, but I think it at least makes them interesting because Matthew Stafford is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league. Just played on a very bad team for so long that people forgot about how talented he is, and so that's interesting. Leonard Floyd is just
dude. What the fuck with this signing?
It's because he went off last year and had a bunch of sacks, but I mean,
dude, I can roll out there and I'll get a couple sacks for Aaron Donald's up in the middle.
Floyd. Yeah.
Like you could have put the Scarecrow out there, he still would have gotten stats. It's unbelievable. I cannot believe they signed him to that.
I don't know. Literally, I can sum that up with, I don't know. I guess
yeah, here we go again. Like the Rams are spending a shit ton of money, and let's see how far they get in the playoffs. Like
I'm glad we're not the team doing that. At least that's the one feather in the cap the Bears I can put.
Yeah.
All right. Next. 49ers. Kyle Juszczyk, bringing him back. Obviously, he's a big part of that defense, whether it be just being a leader in the locker room and everything. Trent Williams, it's wild that they brought him back from this because he's like 33 years old. So that's literally going to take him until he's 40.
I mean, so
what they did was they signed him until he retires. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Whitworth is still 38 or something, right? 39.
He's up there, yeah, but basically, it's they signed him until he retires. That's really it. If he retires early and the contract's done earlier, they could care less. Alex Mack, really good, talented center, veteran guy who's been super good if he's healthy. So that's really them hoping as long as he's healthy, he'll be productive. And it brings the reconnection back from the Falcons with Shanahan, where he was there before. So Shanahan knows him, likes him. So that's not surprising. Samson, God, I cannot pronounce his last name, signing a 2-year deal. That's a good signing for them. It's another good coverage linebacker. Mosley, bringing him back was good. And then Jason Verrett bringing him back as well. Just kind of keeping that corner stacked, considering they're losing Richard Sherman. Seahawks, I just saw Gerald Everett come around earlier today. That's obviously in the post-trade fell-through era where they're now actually going to try to help Russell Wilson out a little bit, maybe. Gabe Jackson acquired in a trade is interesting because he's a good player. He's not spectacular, but at least he gives them some kind of help on the offensive line. I feel like I don't know what the Seahawks are going to do moving forward because with Russell Wilson, like you're keeping a quarterback. Like I know you don't want to rebuild Pete Carroll, but like keeping Russell Wilson, who's not super happy at 32 years old, yeah, like it's just I don't know what you're doing. Like do you want just a angry quarterback for the next 2 or 3 years before like you have to do something with him? I don't know, but
Una Ford,
yeah, it's nose tackle.
top
He's a
tier
good.
name, A tier name signing. Good job, Seahawks.
He's a pretty good nose tackle, honestly. He should. That's a little bit too much money, probably, but yeah, he's a good nose tackle.